So many of you have messaged me and wanted to know more about United for Puerto Rico. It was the organization that was set up after Hurricane Maria. The First Lady of Puerto Rico, Beatriz Rosselló, is sort of the face of the organization. We've talked about the stop and goes, those emergency pop-ups that are happening all over the island where you can go and get Wi-Fi, government services. There's a playpen for kids, water and food. But more importantly, it's an organization that's raising a lot of money and is providing money. But it's also collecting donations, and there have been a lot of criticism about it, a lot of questions about it, a lot of confusion. And so one of the first things I wanted to do now that we're back on the island is talk to people who are a part of the organization, and these two gentlemen have agreed to join us. Max Schuessler is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Evertec, a technology company, and Alberto De La Cruz is the President of Coca Cola here on the island, which, as he explained it to me, is more of a franchisee situation, not associated with Coke as we know it on the mainland. First of all, gentlemen, tell me how you guys are involved with United for Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so United for Puerto Rico was created right after Irma. The First Lady said we need to have some relief for the islands that were affected, and both Alberto and I were asked to contribute, so our companies were some of the founding members that made donations, and that was because we both have businesses here, we both wanted do the best thing for the Puerto Rico citizens. We became founding members originally. It became bigger after Maria. The need was much bigger, and the donations became much larger, so there was a need to turn it into a board that was managed by the private sector. So Evertec's one of the largest public companies in Puerto Rico. If you look at the other board members, there are two other CEOs from public companies, and Alberto joined the board as well so that we could actually help manage the donations that were coming in.
I mean, when we first started, honestly, it was a very simple project. Irma was, on a matter of fact, we thought we were blessed because the first hurricane completely moved and went away from us. So really it was more of a project to help this part of Puerto Rico, which was here, Culebra and Vieques. It would have been a project that we could have fixed fairly quickly, and the amount of money we really needed wasn't that much. A week later, the organization was already set up, and everything changed. And all of a sudden Maria comes, and guess what? Now it's a completely new ballgame. It's not, we're no longer a country that was spared by a hurricane. We were a country hit hard by the hardest hurricane in the history of the United States.
What's the mission of United for Puerto Rico?
Yeah, so the initial mission is to provide immediate relief, to help people that don't have food, to help people that don't have homes, to help people that need medical services. So what you'll find is, up to now, we've given away about $1.6 million to those types of initiatives. We've given money to $500,000 to the American Red Cross, nearly $250,000 to the Boys and Girls Club, some local organizations that are helping provide clean water and teach people how to, fix their homes. So that's been the immediate need. This week, you'll see, and we'll talk about a little bit later, we've got a couple $1 million this week that we're going to give out to actually help small businesses get back to business. Because to Alberto's point, if you go outside of San Juan, you'll find these malls that have all these businesses are closed. The local Chinese restaurant, the local dress shop, the local bakery, they're closed because they don't have power. So one of the initiatives is to actually help the small businesses and bring back the private sector as well.
What's been most interesting is also, all of a sudden you're taking a lot of these small business, non-for-profit organizations who were set up to help local food raising and all that, and a lot of them didn't even have generators, a lot of them didn't have that type of thing. But a lot of them never had filled out an application to a 501(c)(3).
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time working with them so that we can have the right application. We get the right information for them, make sure that the money's spent in the right place, and that has taken probably a couple of days. But we're spending. But now the whole process is moving very quickly because everybody understands what they need, how they need it, and we can move much faster giving the aid.
Yeah, we have over 30 applications now, and we've approved 11.
Who's the we? Who's doing all this?
That was the hard part. So initially it was us, right? Because we didn't have it. This organization was created right after the hurricane. There was no executive director. There was no infrastructure. There were no accountants. So the island immediately got the companies involved to commit resources. So the board was actually going through the applications. The generator program we'll talk about. We approved it. It was our idea. Alberto actually ordered the generators. We helped figure out which are some of the businesses that needed them the most quickly. So originally it was the board. Now, 2 weeks ago, we now have an executive director. We now have the resources to actually get the applications through faster and to work with the not-for-profits. This is a brand new organization. If you think about Puerto Rico, the largest foundation in Puerto Rico gives $4 million a year or less away every year. Only
What is
$4
that?
million.
What is that?
It's the RAFID.
Yeah.
But it's $4 million a year. This organization, we've raised over $20 million that we're going to try and get to the system very, very quickly.
Since Irma.
Since Irma.
And you've given out how much?
By the end of this week, we'll have given away nearly $6 million. And this is an organization that never existed.
How do you choose who you give it to?
We go through a lot of vetting about, is it about relief, right? Because a lot of these organizations may have had operating issues and budget shortfalls before. Is it about getting the bareness, the basic needs met, getting food on people's table, getting hot meals to them, helping them get medical. One of the organizations we funded is to help people get to the doctor's office. So it's been looking at those basic needs. And then the second piece, to Alberto's point, is, again, helping the private sector. These small businesses are the small businesses where people use their food stamps to go get their meals, right? There's a big underprivileged population. There was a private sector that took care of that. That whole private sector shut down with a hurricane. Re-enabling those small grocery stores to be able to provide those benefits is one of the most critical things we can do.
Have you found that it's best to have a shotgun approach and help as many as you can, or more of a rifle approach and be specific with your intent?
The whole way, the whole process is a rifle approach. There's not that many organizations.
Right.
So you can do a shotgun.
How many are there?
Right now, we like I said, right now we have 30 applications coming in the system right now, and they're all 30 local organizations that we're helping. So what we're really trying to do is find like Centro Isolina, organization that we all known for many years. I've been in Puerto Rico for 20 years. You have some of the board members here have been in Puerto Rico. You have some of the board members have been here all their lives, so they know the organization. So what we're trying to do is take small organizations or medium-sized organizations in Puerto Rico, help them fund them so they can get bigger and help more locally. Again, these are local. What we're really investing is in local organizations and helping them be able to not have to focus on raising money, but focus more on helping people.
And of those organizations, are they all helping with hurricane relief efforts, or are you giving to people that have nothing to do with hurricane
No,
relief?
no,
It's
this is
all.
all
It's
focused
only
on
hurricane relief.
Only hurricane
I mean, if you
relief.
go down the list, I mean, for instance, you go to Banco Alimentos of Puerto Rico. We gave them $100,000 out of that $100,000.
Why don't you read there and tell me what's been given in the home?
Okay, first one, La Perla de Gran Precio was $100,000 by Amon. This was a whole issue of supporting individuals with disabilities and with drug addict. In other words, a lot of people were there with disabilities who did not have any power, didn't have anything, so that we gave $100,000. Banco Alimentos, $100,000, of which $35,000 was a generator. They didn't imagine a bank of food was already set up to give food, but didn't have a backup generator
For the refrigerators. I mean, how do you refrigerate food without a
cooking? So
generator?
that's something. Now remember, a lot of people say, well, why FEMA can give that? FEMA cannot give any kind of donation, cannot give a generator to the private sector. FEMA can give a generator to a hospital if it's a public hospital, but FEMA cannot go and start giving power to private sector things. The same way as FEMA is able to transport diesel for the public sector, but FEMA cannot start giving diesel to any of these institutions. So all these institutions could not be supported by FEMA. All these institutions have to be supported by the private sector. Now, who in the private sector is going to help these people?
Yep.
Now, how are these people going to be running? And Banco of Alimentos, which I think they've been giving up to today over 300,000 meals. How do you work with them? Banco of Alimentos, help them give meals, but at the same time force them to try to raise money. It's physically impossible for them. So that,
keep going down the list.
okay. Centro Ayuda Social, again, the same concept. 13 kitchens were established for providing 800 meals per day. Again, what we're trying to do, these organizations, we said we give $40,000. Then we go into the organization. If we give you more money, could you do more hot meals?
That's important, because usually they'll ask for a big ask, and then we break it up into phases. We'll give you this, make sure they do it, give them the next phase. So we're trying to make sure that they're using
And when you
responsibly.
donate money, do you set sort of a list of expectations, like we would like for you to do this with this money?
Yeah. Part of the chart of the whole concept. First of all, we know the charts. A lot of these organizations existed before.
Right.
Puerto Rico's, we've had poverty in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not one of the wealthiest. As you might know, Puerto Rico would have been, it was one of the lowest income per state in the United States.
Or it was bankrupt when the storm hit. They
bankrupt
filed for
storm.
bankruptcy earlier this
So,
year.
so we've always had a need. I mean, all these, La Perla Gran Precio existed, Banco Alimento de Puerto Rico existed, Centro Ayuda Social, all these organizations existed. But they existed at a very small scale. Also, they existed with power.
Yeah.
Now they're existing without power. So the first thing you go in there and you say, listen, I'm gonna get you the generator. The next question I say, do you know how to get diesel? I mean, it's great I get you a generator, but what good is a generator? And that's where the board comes in.
And how do you keep that diesel coming?
And now that we can do, because frankly, the diesel problem in Puerto Rico was resolved, because what was done is we separated the private sector and the public sector. So now all the public sector is being delivered by government trucks,
Right.
and all the private sector is being delivered by private trucks. So that has been a huge solution that has helped us. So now
Which
we
is
know,
why you don't see the gas lines around the island right now that
Right.
we did for the first 2, even 3 weeks after the storm.
So those are the great things FEMA did. I mean, in a period of a week, FEMA brought in 200 tanker trucks,
Right.
much faster than anybody could do it, and then took care of that. That makes a huge benefit for us, because it allows these organizations that we give generators to can have
Use 'em.
diesel.
Can you continue, just for the people
Yeah.
who are watching, to tell us who else you've given to?
The National Puerto Rican Leadership Council, which was, what they were doing is providing a supply of drinking water solutions in 78 municipalities, so you can have water. If you remember, the Department of Salud said there was no drinking water available, so we moved that, and that was given early on. That was given 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The
Boys and Girls
the
Club.
Boys Club, you can explain that.
Yeah, that's to provide meals to kids that, for after school, that don't have dinners, their parents don't have food, they don't have power.
The next one, Multiples de Puerto Rico.
This was to help people get to their medical appointments, to their doctor's offices, so that they can get treatment. Their doctor may not be open, so they've got to come into the city. So providing transportation for medical care.
The TARP Repair Kids and the Humanitarian Assistant Housing Foundation that create a whole housing program for. Remember, FEMA will help you also on, doesn't help all houses. Again, FEMA's very interesting. I mean, if you really look at the way FEMA works, it's all about the individual. It's not about the small business.
Right.
Right.
And then for you to go to small
Well,
business.
there are various programs that FEMA does offer, which would entitle businesses to at least apply for assistance. But in the immediate term, you're right. Right after the storm, they don't come in
But if you don't
and
have
start
power
showering.
for 3 months, you don't
No,
have a business.
100
No,
and that's why we
100%.
love the generator.
And the small business program of FEMA is completely driven on loans.
Right.
There's no grants on the small business.
Let's just finish up this list. What else?
Then we have the Iniciativa Comunitaria Projector mobile units for health care.
healthcare.
So we're creating healthcare units. We gave them 150,000.
$500,000 for the
half
Red Cross.
a million of Red Cross y Proyecto Nacer, which supports single mothers in Puerto Rico.
Okay, so that's 1.5 roughly $1 million that was given out just for that. And so you didn't just give them, you gave some of them generators, but mainly it was
money,
Okay.
and some of them generators.
All
But it was all based on the relief.
when we're talking about generator, we're not talking. It's a different program than the small business generator program. These are very large generators, so
Right.
they can run a whole kitchen. And honestly, we try to spec them to be larger because we really want them to get bigger.
Right.
Our idea is if you get these organizations and if by giving them money they can do more, then you're really getting local, and it's much more affordable to do.
Where are most of your donations coming from?
They're coming from all over. A lot have come from the local business community. A lot are coming from stateside. And that's why it's important when we set this up to get the designation of a 501c3 so that people can take their tax deductions. We had to apply for that. And then we have to put an application process in place to make sure that we vet the organizations. And I mean, there are IRS regulations about how you manage this. And that was one of the important things about doing this right. The other things, the generators we're going to talk about today, we had to order 2,000 generators and source those here. So that took a couple of weeks for those to get here as well.
And there's a lot of, the first 1,000 was easy to do. The second 1,000, the guy said he had them. When we went to ship them, he didn't have them.
Yeah.
When we said we're gonna give you the money, he said, no, don't send me the money yet. I'm still putting it together. He said they were gonna be here for January, so we lost a week. So now we found another guy who had him, which was the underbidder of the other bid, and then we got him in. So we're getting 1,000 this week, and next week we get another 1,000.
But I do want to go back to something you said. It's been amazing, the compassion from stateside, because a lot of these donations are coming stateside. A lot of them are coming, but we also too have ATH Mobile, which is a local P2P app. We're getting a lot of donations that way, but it's been across the board.
How much is coming in a day?
I'd have to check the local, the most recent stats, but 20 million is what we have now, and it's still coming in. And we have other
in a
commitments.
period of, when we first started, it was $10 million right away, and then
Everything from like large donations to $25.
We're getting most of the donations
of small
are small donations.
A lot of small donations. All right, so who is watching the money, handing it out? Who's your financial advisor overseeing that?
Yeah, so we actually have a bookkeeper. We actually have an accounting firm that's one of the top firms that's actually going to do the auditing. And then every time a check's cut, the board has to approve it and make sure there's fiscal discipline around it.
How much is being paid for, who's your staff for United for Puerto Rico?
Right now, we've just hired an executive director.
How much is that person making?
No, it's right now.
Not much.
So no, right now she's not making anything. She's
what we're trying
I'm
to
asking because her salary would be coming from the donations, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Well, in her case, because we did it, she's coming from the Fundación, so
Right.
so we were working with the Fundación.
The big thing we're trying to do is keep the administrative fees very low. Right now, there have been none. At some point, if we're managing $20 million, we're gonna make sure that if we have administrative fees, that they're gonna be best in class when you look at the expense ratio. We're not gonna be a foundation that says 15% went to manage the expenses. We will have to pay auditors, we will have to pay some expenses, but I can promise you those will be best in class.
But
And the good news is it's a big amount of money for a short period of time, so it should be a very, very good ratio.
We don't want this organization to be here. This is not forever.
No.
Okay, so the goal is
This-
not to
that-
be around in 10 years.
No,
championing
our
what
goal is
you're-
not to be here. Honestly, our goal would be great not to be here around in a year.
Okay.
But-
We would like to, this is immediate result, put a program together, and we're not here to, the only reason this organization was created was for the hurricane.
Right.
Okay.
That we're not here to fix the problems of Puerto Rico for the next 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
We're not here to.
I'm not signing up for that.
No.
All right, so let's talk about people who are on the mainland, right? Because a lot of people have reached out to me and said, I gave to this place and I got donations sitting in Orlando or Baltimore or
Yeah.
New York, and I'm trying to get them to Puerto Rico. And, you know, I initially talked with Dr. Luis Martinez, who's sort of like the First Lady's Chief of Staff. Not sort of, he is the First Lady's Chief of Staff, but working with United for Puerto Rico because that's really become her main mission right now. And he said, listen, online there's a process. You go, you download it. Well, I looked at the forms. You got to go hire a genius to figure out how to even fill out the forms. So my question to you guys is there a way to simplify this process or make it easier? Because if I, for example, right, had got some buddies together and I raised $200,000 and got 1 million pounds of aid, I'd scream if I had to fill out that application form. Is there an easier way to do it?
Yeah, the question we have right now is, what is the best form of help that you can give Puerto Rico right now? And let's be realistic right now. Puerto Rico has $1.9 billion a year in food stamps. It's a huge amount of money, and it's not being all used because there's not enough food in the supermarkets. So my question to everybody out there, and what we're trying to say is, instead of giving product that we have to figure out sorting, trying to get it over here, figure out how we warehouse it, how we move it around. We're trying to encourage people now to give financial money. I mean, to give
Cash donations.
cash donations. And
All right, so that's a big deal, hearing you say that, right?
Yeah.
That's important,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people need to know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you've got people on the mainland
Yep.
who
Yeah.
are colleagues of mine,
Yep.
who've reached out in Los Angeles, who work for CBS
Yeah.
News, who have all this stuff sitting in a warehouse, and they can't get in touch with anybody in Puerto Rico to figure out how to get it there.
We weren't created to move all this merchandise. And that's the problem we face. I mean, we were created to, the concept of Unidos, what the mission was Unidos, is to help our local organizations fund local organizations so local organizations could work better and be able to feed. Now, if we can get local organizations to take on like some of those products over there and work with missions, that's what really we want to do.
Yeah.
Because now we've already identified, we have certain, through PRAFA, there are some goods that were identified, that were delivered to us, that are in our possession. And we've hired a company by the name of Lyft, which is a non-for-profit that is gonna be working with us to bring those goods in. Now, we're
This
not.
is not like Lyft, the car service
No,
on the
no,
island.
no. But it's almost the same. I feel like we're like, so let me tell you what my concern is. If we continue sending stuff to Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
we're gonna have the same problem Haiti had. I mean, really think about it. Haiti lost the rice industry.
Yeah.
Because they used to produce rice, then we just started feeding the people with rice all the time, then also nobody, we have a supermarket network, we have, right now, every single municipality has a supermarket. With this new generator program we're gonna be able to put smaller food accounts also to open up and help those, to create that second level. The first level right now is completely met, is large box supermarkets, or where we're right now very weak on our small box accounts. So once we get those small box accounts, where people will have a place to go to buy it. All these small accounts also have the food stamp program, so they can receive money through the food stamp. So people will get fed the same way they have been fed in the past, because Puerto Rico has always been has had a very strong food stamp
But
program.
that creates jobs. It puts people back to work in those small stores. So that's what we need is the financial donation, so we can reactivate the economy, support the local not-for-profits that have the grassroots sort of social intelligence. But to your point, back to the people that have stuff on the docks, we're trying to get it in if we already own it, because some of that's
what are you doing?
working with Lyft to
With
try to
Lyft,
figure out how
we've
to
hired
get that
Lyft
into
to
the
come in, and
to
Lyft
get
is
it
working right now. To give you right now, I don't know if you know this, there's no chassis in the United States right now. Right now, there's no containers in the United States. FEMA has bought all the containers that can come to Puerto Rico.
So those people are
and
competing
we
with the
still
private
haven't
street
seen the
family.
right now. Puerto Rico's without power, what, 70%?
Yep.
Yes.
And let's be realistic, 70% is without power, including that is large format pharmaceuticals and all that. When we
Right.
start looking at retail, or when we start looking at the number is much higher. So in reality, no, we haven't seen any reconstruction done right now, because you can't reconstruct without power. So when reconstruction starts coming back in, and everybody needs it, there's gonna be more containers. And some people say, whatever, we don't have that many containers coming to Puerto Rico. We don't.
All right, so in the immediate term, because I just want to sort of give answers and hope to people who are wondering. So in the immediate term, if I have donations on the mainland, I want to get here, what should I do?
Okay, if the donations were done were identified to be at Unidos, and it was something they did with Unidos,
Okay.
we're responsible for that.
Okay,
If we're not Unidos, the best way is to work, to find a local organization, some missions and all that, churches and all that, and work with them.
okay, all right.
So what I would recommend is, because they have the manpower to be able to bring it. We cannot continue bringing stuff into Puerto Rico.
Right. It's costing a lot of money, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's costing a lot of money, plus we don't have.
Tell me some of those stories. I mean, how much have y'all had to pay to bring stuff in? What are some of those price
Right now,
tags?
the last budget that we put together was $250,000 for shipping of product. That's what we had budgeted.
Just to bring stuff here?
Yeah.
That was our budget for the last board meeting. That's what we approved, to bring in all the stuff that is in our name right now.
But I think Alberto's point is, if you want stuff brought in, what we're looking for in the future is for people that have local distribution, a church that's got stuff they can bring in to make that application.
The Mennonites
Because
have
we need
an
to make sure when
organization.
it gets here, that somebody's gonna use it effectively, right? And so making sure that you have
So
distribution when you apply.
you need to contact
Organizations that are on the ground.
That are on the ground,
That
right?
Contact an organization on the ground here in Puerto
Yeah,
Rico
right.
and say, I've got stuff in
Do
Baltimore.
you
Right.
need it? Can you distribute it?
Right. Yeah, okay.
And then that organization.
Now, that organization, if that organization could come to us, and then with an application.
How do I come to you?
All the small organizations, they all know us already.
Okay,
So
okay.
that organization could come to us, and we could help them, not necessarily, we don't wanna be like the FedEx paying everybody shipping. What we wanna do is put a budget together to see how that organization is gonna help, and then help them fund with that small organization. Our job is we're responsible for the money they gave us, is to give it to local organizations, so that they can get stronger, and they can help more locally.
Help long term.
Is there a place online that I can go and look at how much money's come in, how much you've spent, how you're doing, like, because.
No,
look,
no,
as
so
with-
but the answer is no. But
The
it needs
answer
to
is
be.
no.
I
Are
mean,
you gonna
I
fix
think-
that?
Yeah, I mean, I run a public company. You have to report that type of information, right?
So when do you think it would be online for people to see?
Well, you're gonna start seeing it, because every single donation right now that we're doing press releases on it.
You can see what we're giving. You can see the press release. We're reporting how much we
and
have.
on our online, you're gonna have, so for the next week, we have press releases every day. So every time we do a donation, we do a press release.
But that headline reporting of how much we've taken in, how much we're giving out, and then what our expenses are, we will report that to you. We've just hired the ED. Like I said, this didn't exist.
Right,
6
no,
weeks ago.
and
But
look,
we've
that
got
is, yeah.
But people need to remember that this
Yeah,
was
no,
done
that's
very
important, and
quickly.
I was about to say, I mean, it's worth noting, this is not an organization that was, set up and took on this task.
No.
It didn't exist before Irma.
No, but what is incredible is in such a short amount of time, how much philanthropy came into the island. I got a lot of stakes. So it's incredible what's been done. You've got people in the private sector that are managing it day to day, and then they're enabling it by bringing on the right resources, the right staff to make sure we can do those things.
Who's been your biggest donor?
We've had several big donors. Bacardi was one of the largest.
How much?
Over $1 million.
What was the smallest?
We've had donors online for $5.
Small, yeah.
And I think we
That's
really
great.
appreciate those.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about general. Well, first of all, what were some of the maps that you brought me here? So this shows what?
Okay, let me give you the island of Puerto Rico. And everybody talks about energy. Let's think about, and I'm going to draw you a little bit so you understand how it is. What everybody talks about is the north and south corridor for electricity comes, right, obviously all the power is down here and the north is here. So what's happening right now is we're feeding the north with a power line that goes like this, across to here, that comes from these here.
Right.
So we're feeding, so there's no electrical system coming here around here. This
Right. A majority of the consumption is in the north.
North.
But it comes from the south.
South, from the south, and it's coming from this, which is very
Correct.
inefficient. So all these plants that we have run, we have several plants coming down here.
Right.
They're all feeding across here, going on here, and then taking and going to the north.
Right.
And coming up all the way to the north.
Yep.
We're waiting for, in 2 weeks, we have what we call the northern corridor, which is the big tower, the 350s that we have, which will be, I would say by the last week of November, we should have that, and that will give us a bridge so that we have this whole thing light up, so we have the whole power.
Okay.
Here, we have no power
For a long time.
for a long time.
Yep.
There's
And
no,
this is where the storm first hit.
That's where
so
the
it
storm-
came
it
in. So
ran,
your
so-
first direct hit
it-
was Jabucoa, Patillas,
Yep.
yeah.
Humacao. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have no power here,
Right.
and if you look at it, even the contractors that have been hired to do this area have the contracts were just signed this week. So
Right.
so this area here will have no power, and this area here in the center also will not have any power. So
So what are you guys doing to help these?
That's where I did. What we did is we did the generator program
Okay.
2000.
with 2,000 generators.
All right, and so that's what you're sort of announcing right now.
Right now.
So tell me about that program. 2,000 generators that you went out and bought. The organization went out and bought. You have 1,000 so far.
We have 1,000 right now. As a matter of fact, you're gonna
We're
have
gonna show you the first one,
the first
right.
1,000. The container came in. We just took it out of the ports today.
Yep.
We will start delivering tomorrow. We already have all the applications.
Okay.
And what we've done is we've only focused on these towns
Southeastern side
and these right here
and the
Central.
middle of the island.
We're not trying to give generators to San Juan. We're not trying to give generators to Dorado. We're not
Right.
trying to give generators. I mean, I think they need them for the next week, but what we're looking is a long-term process.
Now, are you giving generators, like who's going to get them there?
Small retailers, less than $1 million in sales.
Okay.
They really to get them back up and running.
Okay.
Then we're working with Centro Unido de Detallistas, who's here, Chico, who's with us here today. And he represents the largest organization, small business in Puerto Rico. So he's helping us identify some of those accounts. And then he has sent people out on the street. We've hired a company called a Retail Group, which works with retailers, small retailers, and they have 9 people right now on the ground also, getting applications. And what we're doing is we're going to these small towns. Remember, these small towns, we have an application now on our website. But what good is an application on our website if you don't have power?
And people always say that. They're like, how am I supposed to go sign up for FEMA assistance?
So it's a great
if I don't know
idea.
the- yeah.
Now, we have the application for everybody who wants to do, but what we
People
want to
are
do.
going to check.
To go to check, maybe also if someone hears about the program, they know they have a cousin who's in there, they could fill out the application for them. But our biggest goal right now is to go into this area here and give generators. And then we also work with Centro Unidos. Centro Unidos came up with some money also. We're giving them fans. We're giving them the 5-gallon drum so they can go get the diesel. And we're also giving them a special extension cord that works on the generator so they can plug multiple things onto the generator.
But again, this is not going to go to people like if I live there and I
No,
have
no,
power,
no,
you're
no.
not giving it to me.
Not
right?
to
This is
individuals,
going-
to small
The
businesses.
first 1,000 are going specifically to small
Small
businesses
business.
to try and
We
resurrect.
those small businesses.
Got it.
And then
Got
the idea is we have the application is pretty common in the sense we're obviously the larger businesses in these areas already have generators.
Right.
So now that the ones who are not open cannot open.
It's the ones who own the small mom and pop restaurant, right?
Right.
Or
Mom,
flower
shop or
something.
the,
Yeah.
And we're going
that.
to start with the ones that accept the benefits programs and the food stamps to make sure people can get their basic needs met, and then move into the other categories. So it will
that's
start.
smart.
Right.
Right.
And we have a list of
Yeah.
that. We have all the list of all the benefit plans. We know right now how many of them are, and that's what we're focusing on now.
And they can't have a generator now. We're going to make sure that they don't. I mean, we're vetting.
But if you look at a lot of the programs, the only comment I see a lot of people coming in Puerto Rico and they put in solar panels program. Great. You put it in San Juan. Guess how long that solar panel lasted? 2 weeks, 3 weeks. By the time you got it here, you put it in, you started the solar panel, the light in San Juan's coming back. So it was a great program
For a short
for a short period of time.
Well, but the whole conversation there is people would like to
What-
see
what-
it long
long-term,
term,
right.
But
My-
that,
but-
that's
but
But
a
this will
separate
be
conversation.
this will be $2.2 million.
But this is $2.2 million that we want to do, and we're targeting an area where nobody's going to.
2.2. What's 2.2
The
million?
whole
generators.
the generators.
Okay, all right. So 2,000 generators are about 2 point.
No, remember that includes the little the tank for the gas.
Okay.
Includes the extension cord.
Gotcha.
And
You
now
bring-
there's no delivery cost or anything like
Who
that.
brings them fuel every so often? to keep
There's
them-
fuel. We're getting gasoline generators.
Okay.
So there's gasoline in every town right now. Here.
Right. Okay. Got
So
it.
with the first 1,000 are going to be 7,500s, which are gasoline only generators. Then we've ordered another, which are a little bit bigger, which are 10,000s, which is that you can do either gas or diesel. Again, this program is the largest generator program on the island right now. Nobody has brought in 2,000 generators because I don't even think people know how to get 2,000 generators.
Couldn't find
You can't get 2,000. I
Yeah,
mean,
where did you get 2,000?
it was.
Or where'd you get 1,000?
We contract. Coca Cola has a guy by the name of Rich, who's a logistics expert,
Coca Cola company.
who came.
Guy named Rich came through.
And he used to work in the military for invasions.
Yep.
Where they have to find generators.
Yep.
So we contracted. He's part of the Coca Cola company contract staff. So he went out and found all these generators and put them together, brought them in.
All right. So when are you rolling these out?
By the way, this is not a Coca Cola program. This is Unidos program.
Understood. When are you rolling those
We
out?
again, you'll see them. We just took them out of the port today.
We brought them to the front of the hotel.
Tonight.
hotel
We'll go see them. But when you start delivering?
By tomorrow we start delivering.
By tomorrow. Okay. All right. Okay. Is there anything I didn't ask that either one of you wants to add?
The only thing I would say is this week you'll continue to see us rolling out other programs. We've got a program for the people that lived in the refugee centers to put money in their pocket so they can replace their clothing if they have medical needs, that type of thing. So this week is going to be a big week for us. And I would also say just continue for the local organizations, continue to make application because the funds are available and we have the process in place to help them.
And what's the website?
Unidos
Unidos
for Puerto Rico.
.com.
Unidos for Puerto Rico.
I'll give you an example. I believe so much in this program that my son goes to boarding school in Avon. He raised money for in his class. He raised $700 and he gave it to Unidos. My daughter was at Georgetown. They raised money and they gave it to Unidos also. So my kids are giving money to Unidos, and I wouldn't be doing this unless if I knew that the money is going the right place.
What do I see in your eyes?
But yeah, it's true. It's very hard. A lot of people are suffering. And it's been a lot of months. Because it started with everyone and it keeps on going.
Doesn't seem like anybody's gotten a break.
No.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thank you. Let's go look at those generators.